होरावृणीमहे गातुं यज्ञाय गातुं यज्ञपतये दैवी स्वस्तिरस्तु नः स्वस्तिर्मानुषेभ्यः ऊर्ध्वं जिगातु भेषजम् शन्नो अस्तु द्विपदे शञ्चतुष्पदे ॐ शान्तिः 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 सहस्रशीर्षा पुरुषः सहस्राक्षः सहस्रपात् स भूमिं विश्वतो वृत्वा अत्यतिष्ठद्दशाङ्गुलम् पुरुष एवेदगं सर्वम् यद्भूतं यच्च भूयम् उतामृतत्वस्येषा नः यदन्नेनातिरोहति एतावानस्य महिमा अतो ज्यायागिश्च पूरुषः पादोऽस्य विश्वाभूतानि त्रिपादस्यामृतं दिवि त्रिपादूर्ध्व उदैत्पुरुषः पादोऽस्येहा भवात् पुनः ततो विश्वं व्यक्रामत् शासनानशने अभि तस्मात् विराट जायत विराजो अधिपूरुषः स जातो अत्यरिच्यत पश्चात् भूमिमथो पुरः यत्पुरुषेण हविषा देवा यज्ञमतन्वत वसन्तो अस्यासीदाज्यम् ग्रीष्म इद्मः शरद्धविः सप्तास्यासन् परिधजः त्रिः सप्त समिधः कृताः देवायज्ञन्तन्वानाः अबध्नन् पुरुषं पशुम् तं यज्ञं बर्हिषि प्रोक्षन् पुरुषं जातमग्रतः तेन देवा अयजन्त साध्या ऋषयश्च ये तस्मात् यज्ञात् सर्वहुतः सम्भृतं वृषदाज्यम् पशुगस्तागिश्चक्रे वायव्यान् आरण्यान् ग्राम्याश्च ये तस्मात् यज्ञात् सर्वहुतः ऋचः सामानि जज्ञिरे छन्दागुंसि जज्ञिरे तस्मात् यजुस्तस्मादजायत तस्मादश्वा अजायन्त ये केचोभजादतः गावोह जज्ञिरे तस्मात् तस्माज्जाता अजावयः यत्पुरुषं व्यदधुः कतिधा व्यकल्पयन् मुखं किमस्य कौ बाहू कावूरूपादावुच्येते ब्राह्मणोऽस्य मुखमासीत् बाहुराजन्यः कृतः ऊरो तदस्य यद्वैश्यः पद्भ्यागं शूद्रो अजायत चन्द्रमा मनसो जातः चक्षोः सूर्यो अजायत मुखादिन्द्रश्चाग्निश्च प्राणात् वायुरजायत नाभ्या आसीदन्तरिक्षम् शीर्ष्णोद्यौः समवर्तत पद्भ्याम् भूमिर्दिशः श्रोत्रात् तथा लोकागम् अकल्पयन् वेदाहमेतम् पुरुषम् महान्तम् आदित्यवर्णम् तपसस्तु पारे सर्वाणि रूपाणि विचित्य धीरः नामानि कृत्वाभिवदन् यदास्ते धाता पुरस्ताद्यमुदा जहार चक्रः प्रविद्वान् प्रदिशश्च तस्रः तमेवं विद्वानमृत इह भवति नान्यः पन्था अयनाय विद्यते यज्ञेन यज्ञमयजन्त देवाः तानि धर्माणि प्रथमान्यासन् ते हनाकम् महिमानः सचन्ते यत्र पूर्वे साध्याः सन्ति देवाः अभ्यः सम्भूतः पृथिव्यैरसाच्च विश्वकर्मणः समवर्तताधि तस्य त्वष्टा विदधद्रूपमेति तत्पुरुषस्य विश्वमाजानमग्रे वेदाहमेतम् पुरुषम् महान्तम् आदित्यवर्णम् तमसः परस्तात् तमेवम् विद्वानमृत इह भवति नान्यः पन्था विद्यते जनाय प्रजापतिश्चरति गर्भे अन्तः अजायमानो बहुधा विजायते तस्य धीराः परिजानन्ति योनिम् मरीचीनाम् पदमिच्छन्ति वेधसः यो देवेभ्य आतपति यो देवानाम् पुरोहितः पूर्वो यो देवेभ्यो जातः नमो रुचाय ब्राह्मये रुचम् ब्राह्मम् जनयन्तः देवा अग्रे तदब्रुवन् यस्त्वैवम् ब्राह्मणो विद्यात् तस्य देवा असन्वशे ह्रीश्च ते लक्ष्मीश्च पत्न्यौ अहोरात्रे पार्श्वे नक्षत्राणि रूपम् अश्विनम् व्यात्तम् इष्टम् मनिषाण अमुम् मनिषाण सर्वम् मनिषाण ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः
ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। So with today's class, we will wrap up the 5th verse, Sajato Atyarichyata Bhumimatho Puraha. So this verse we have spent quite a bit of time on it, and we have only done maybe a 4th or 5th of the material that Swami Maheshananji has given. By the way, talking of that, I decided that instead of facing the corner, we will have a wall. So we changed there were some lighting issues that I solved, and so we are now facing the wall. So instead of just a blank wall and you only looking at me, at least I have the pictures of the important aspects of our background. So this is the Arsha Vidya Center and the Dakshinamurti Vigraha from the Sailorsburg Ashram that we have. All of us follow that. And then my main Guru Swami Dayanand Saraswati, and also Swami Maheshanand Giri His Kula name is Giri. And in the latter part of my life, I have gained clarity and depth mainly due to him. His books are extremely well written. And so together the two of them, and of course Swami Chinmayanand, who originally introduced me to Vedanta, I'm very indebted to him. So anyway, this is the army behind me, if you may. So I don't think of myself as being a lone warrior. Do not try to fight with me, because I have the whole army behind me that will pounce on you to make sure that we can sustain the arguments that we are giving about the Vidya. So at least we have now a group of people. And realistically, I think that anything that I say, anything wise that I say, if I say something unwise, that comes from me. But anything wise that I say comes not from me, but from them, all the way up to Ishvara. And so this is how the parampara is. And so I'm very happy to display that as a symbol behind me. Anyway, so I was saying that we have only covered about a fourth or fifth, very small portion of the fifth verse that Swami Maheshanandji has given, which is the biggest segment of his 2-volume book. But I think that we need to go on because there is no, really it is depthless. Swami Tattvavedananda ji has given this very beautiful example that most of us really do take a dip in the sea, but we are really on the surface. We swim, enjoy the waves, throw water at each other, enjoy it, and so on, and then we come out. But really the depth, the ocean is so deep that no amount of excursion can do justice to the jewels contained in the sea. So in that sense, I would say that Swami Maheshanandji's explanation of the second topic of the Purusha Suktam. So the first topic of the Purusha Suktam was contained in verses number 1 through 4. And as you know, what it said was that Ishvara, the Purusha, is the source of everything in the whole life. It's just like any wave of the ocean must be part of the water of the ocean. And so it's not as though there is anything other than the ocean in that example. And so similarly, the first 4 verses said, Sarvam eva vidam sarvam. Both from time and space standpoint, really it is, we should recognize that. We should recognize that this is really nothing but Ishvara alone. That we also come out of the Ishvara and our journey back towards Ishvara, just like a wave evolves from the water and plays for a while but then goes back into the water. And that example doesn't do complete justice. We will do other things. So the projection and the absorption in the form of a reflection or in the form of a dream is a better example. So really the dream comes out of the Purusha, which is the Jiva, and goes back to it. And in the meantime, it plays havoc with us. Good and bad dreams occur. So this is the first topic, that the enormity of the whole creation really consists of Ishvara alone. Is nothing other than Brahman. Brahman and Ishvara are pretty much the same. Brahman is, Ishvara is Brahman plus the Maya Shakti, and Brahman by itself is called Brahman. That's it. And the Maya Shakti is just is a incipient Shakti. It doesn't have a, in fact, that was one of the questions, that aren't we talking about duality? No, we're not talking about duality. And so, for example, the nature of the dancer, if the person is sitting there quietly not dancing, that doesn't mean that he or she does not have the Shakti of dancing. So the Shakti is also not separate from the person. And so this is the difference between person and the personality, which I will comment on a little bit more later on. So everything is just Ishvara alone. Then in the 5th verse, a new topic was started. Tasmat virada jayata virajo adi purushaha sajato atyarichyata paschat bhumi matho puraha. This is topic number 2, which is the nature of the creation. A creation which is really non-creation. It's a non-creation. It's not a real creation. If it was just like a dream is not a real creation, it looks like a creation, but upon touching, it dissolves. And so when you touch an ornament, you're really only touching gold. You cannot say that, ornament is not a separate object. You cannot say, I'm going to just touch the ornament but not the gold. I'm going to try very hard. I'll find some inventive way of just touching the ornament without touching the gold. Okay, try. Foolishness. And so similarly, really, the whole world is nothing but Ishvara. I'm going to try to touch the world without the Ishvara. Foolishness. It's just like touching an ornament without touching the gold. Foolishness. Absolute. This is what is meant by ajnanam, of ignorance. It's like a childish kind of a thing. You pretend for a while. Anyway, that's the main topic we will continue to do. And that is why the second topic, which is that of the non-creation as a creation, is huge. And the discussion of Maya Shakti and so on. And I would say it's a little bit out of the scope of the class that we are teaching. Because I made a promise that I will teach it in a short number of classes. And I need to keep that promise. So what I have decided to do, that today is the last class on verse number 5. Whatever we can do, we can squeeze it in. That's it. And the rest will have to evolve, or at least has to wait until you have more time to study. I am actually studying some of it on my own, but as a class we will not be able to do it. And then I will start preparing for the next verse, which I will talk about hopefully in the next class itself, maybe even today here, and then otherwise in the next class. Okay, so that being the case, so in the topic of the creation versus non-creation, we had talked about it last time also, that it's a very interesting non-creation in the sense that something amazing is being presented, and yet it is not something you can really analyze or to touch. Like, for example, you have lots of mirrors around you. You can have an amazing mixture of different views of yourself. When I was going bald, now I am almost completely, not almost, I am bald. But in the beginning, it was a shock to realize how much baldness I had until I went to see some of these funny mirrors. There were multiple mirrors. And all of a sudden there I saw a back view of my head. And I said, who is that? Because, in the beginning I used to brush my teeth so that they were all visible. I brushed my hair, what am I saying, brush my teeth, my hair, so that they were all visible as hair. And nobody else would tell me. I have a couple of friends who'll say, wow, you're really getting bald. And I would say they're just exaggerating. I'm not really bald. I was really bald. And it wasn't until I saw the multiple reflections. A single reflection doesn't do it. So this is an interesting thing. This whole analysis of mirror as a reflection, which we will talk about a little bit more today, is a very important subject. A very important subject. So not only the mirror, but you have any reflecting surface. So Maheshwar talks a lot about standing next to a pond, a clearly quiet pond, which is not moving. And you find your own reflection to be very funny. There your head is down and your feet is up, and you are prone, and your length has nothing to do with what you are. It could be a very long shadow. And it reflects the color of the water. If it's muddy, then you're also muddy. And even in a mirror, he says that if you look at yourself in the mirror, you look this way and your reflection looks the other way. So it's a distorted and a incomplete picture. It's also incomplete because the mirror cannot show your back to you. As I was talking about the baldness of the head, unless you have some funny arrangements of the mirror. But a single mirror does not show you completely. It shows you partially. So this is a very important way of seeing the world and my own estimation of it. Here I would like to interject. I'm maybe doing out of sequence. I have some things that I wanted to cover, and if the ideas come into my mind, I just tell you there right away. So this is an important thing to see. As you know by now, we have talked about it, and if not in this class, then you must know by now that there are basically two aspects of a Purusha. Two aspects. So I'm carefully using the word aspects and not using parts or segments, although I could use segments, but let's say aspects is a good word. Way of looking at it. That's what aspect means. And those are the person and the personality. Okay, that's the thing. These are the two aspects. Two aspects of the person and the personality. So the person is the one who is the basis of the personality. So you can make several mistakes here. One mistake you can make is the person is the personality. And this is how we look at people and situations. When we talk about somebody, we can say sometimes that, he's a nice person. I'm surprised that he got angry. You can say that. Yeah. If you say that, then you are distinguishing between the nature of the person and something happening to him which is temporary, which is anger. You can say that. Sometimes we make that statement that I don't know what happened to him. Normally I don't see him so perturbed, but my God, he was really hot the other day. I don't know why he got so upset. Like that we make a statement. Well, in that case, we do make a distinction between the natural swarupa of a person, which is a person, By the way, those are, I think many of you who are students of Vedanta know this, that this person and the personality are indicated by the technical words in Vedanta called Swarupa and Swabhava. So Swarupa is the nature of the person and Swabhava is the nature of the personality. Okay? So normally we don't even make a distinction between them. We'd say, that's the way that person is. We'll often will say. We'll say something like, that person didn't have to say that. He should be more careful about. Just like talking in, you meet somebody and then you and your spouse are sort of analyzing what happened this evening. There was one person who spoke something which was upsetting to others, not a real anger, but just saying something, and you say, well, I don't know why he had to say that, but I guess that's the way he is. So when you say that's the way he is, you are not distinguishing between person and personality. How a person behaves is the same thing as the person is. But in Vedanta, we say that really speaking, this is Advaita Vedanta. This is a very important a very fundamental part of the Advaita Vedanta. That the whole world should be seen as having two aspects, a person and a personality. And the personality is resident on the person. And the way to distinguish between which is person and which is personality is that the personality comes and goes. It is not intrinsic to the person. It is incidental to the person. Whereas the person is intrinsic Swarupa about himself, herself. This is the way what Vedanta says. So this is, in technical words of Vedanta, it's called Vivarta Upadana Karanam. So Vivarta Upadana Karanam means that you should see the whole creation in the form of a person and personality, where the person remains the same and the personality comes and goes. He doesn't have to have the personality. The example, very beautiful example, that of water. So water, H2O, which is consisting of two atoms of hydrogen and a single atom of oxygen combining together, it's a unique Pancha Mahabhuta, one of the Mahabhutas, one that cannot be divided anymore. These are all, the whole thing is just done in Pancham. This is what is called Prapancha. Pancha, Pancha, Pancha. Everything is in Pancha. And so here you have Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha and Prithvi. And so if you look at Apaha, which is water, so in terms of the person and the personality, the person of the water is the molecular structure of water. It's called H2O. This is the person. Then what is the personality? The personality is Dravyatvam. Dravyatvam means that something unique to water, which the other Panchamahabhutas do not have, it can flow. It can flow. Akasha cannot flow. Vayu does not really flow. It moves around in a very invisible manner. And Fire also has different properties, but doesn't flow like the water. And of course, Prithvi does not flow at all. It just stays at one place. But water has flowingness. Now, the flowingness is the personality of the water. How can we say that? Because the personality can come and go, but the person remains the same. Right? That's our definition. So now, can you ever have water without H2O? No, cannot. So that means that the molecular structure of water is the swarupa of the water, the person of the water. Flowingness doesn't have to be there all the time, because in a pond there is no flowingness. The H2O is there, but the flowingness is not there. So anyway, you can say that is the distinction between the person and the personality. Okay. The reason I'm spending so much time on this is the following reason. You and I are no different. This is what is called the basic Vivarta Upadana Karanam. Nothing changes totally in the final analysis. You may have relative changes that are irreversible, like a curd, a milk becoming yogurt is irreversible. So on a relative level you have irreversibility, but at the macro level there is no irreversibility. This is what needs to be seen. At the macro level there is vivarta, which means reversibility. So when you dream at night time, it's a reversible process. And it is reversible only because there is no real change. So a gold becoming a necklace is a reversible process. It doesn't change really. It just has some nama rupa, that's it. And the nama rupa is a personality of the gold, not the swarupa of the gold. Anyway, all of that we know is the supporting. So you and I have we have the two aspects of ourselves, a person and a personality. You know what the main problem in our life is? We get the two of them completely mixed up. As we are studying in the Drikdrishya Viveka, Bhrantijanyam. So the identity with the manaha and sharira is Bhrantijanya. Bhrantijanya means that it is based on aviveka. It is not real, it is just childish, and it is foolish. So how is it foolish? Why is it childish? Why is it so damaging to us? So here's this final word on that. Anything that, so we have to be very scientific and very logical and very disciplined in applying the definition of person and personality. It's not mumbo jumbo, oh this is okay too, it doesn't matter, it doesn't be, no. I just made a statement in the other class the other day, you should see this. There is nothing more scientific than Vedanta. All of Vedas, but the essence of the Veda, which is Vedanta. Vedasya antaha. Antaha here doesn't mean the physical end, but the very essence of it. Tatparya. What is the main essence of it? The essence of that is Swarupa is Satyam and a personality is Mithya. How? What do you mean by that? Because the personality keeps changing. Anything that keeps changing is not real. This is the filter that we must use in our analysis of ourselves. But then what do? Here's what we do. So by definition, in fact, let me continue with this error, how we make the error. What we do is, we think that this is the person. Oh yeah, there's a personality because the way I react to situations is different. So my mind, yes, I can see the mind has a personality and so on. But really, the me, when I say me, that is a person. That is the person. Vedanta says, are you sure? Yeah, absolutely. What do you mean? This is the person and everything else is the personality. This is me. There's nothing else than me. Vedanta says, think over it one more time. Says, yeah, that's it. Vedanta says, no. You are not following the definition. What do you mean by I'm not following the definition? What definition? Anything that changes is not the person. Oh, okay, I'm not following it, so what? It's okay. It's not okay. This is the crux of your problem, my dear. So then what should I do? What you should do is to do anusandhanam. Anusandhanam means to carefully structure your search. You have lost something. You appear to have lost the search for the real person. Because we say that there is nothing without a real person and a personality. Nothing. And here you are taking the personality to be a person, which is a mistake. Okay, fine, it's a mistake. So now can you tell me who the real person is? Good. Listen carefully. So this is how the topic progresses, and what I have to see is what is the real person? Where is the real person? And so really very interestingly enough, all the wise acharyas of Vedanta say that the search for God is also the search for the real person that you are. You can call it anything. What are you doing? I am studying about God. I am going to the temple or church or the mosque. And hopefully I'm going to go to the Tirthasthanam at the top of some hill in India. And I understand that you can get the darshan of Shiva. That's what I'm doing. So the acharyas say, please, can I tell you something? You're my dear friend. I'm not going to mislead you. But please, here is the situation. if you look for God as something different from you, He hides Himself. Hides. You can never find it. You can never find it. You know that famous story. I'll tell you 3 or 4 stories today. Not 3 or 4, maybe a couple of them. You know that very famous story that there was a very wealthy diamond merchant from Surat in Gujarat. Surat is known for diamond polishing and all of that. They are very big in diamond industry. So there was this person who would travel back and forth between Mumbai and Surat by train. Overnight train. I think that's overnight train. I'm not sure. I think it is that far away. So he would take a berth in a first class compartment so that he doesn't have to deal with second class and third class passengers who might steal his. So he used to take a bag of diamonds and take it out of his suitcase and carry with him on this first class compartment. Okay, so this is the one thing. There was a very, very efficient thief who was a very wise thief. He would study people, study their habits, and pounce on them at the last minute when the situation was good. So he's been studying this guy, and he says every 6 months he gets into this train and he travels between Surat and Mumbai, and he goes to sleep at night time. When he is asleep, I will book a berth next to him and I will try to get his stuff out. So anyway, this person got up in before going to bed. He changed his clothes into the bathroom and he came back, and then the other person also went to the bathroom to change his clothes, and they went to sleep. So the thief never went to sleep because he was really searching for where this bag of diamonds is, and he looked everywhere. He put his hand behind the pillow of this guy and there was nothing there. He went very cleverly into the suitcase, clothes, pockets. He couldn't find it. Next morning again, this guy gets up, goes to the bathroom, changes back into street clothes and comes back. And the thief also goes to the bathroom and so on. And the thief comes back and said, "Sir, can I just tell you something? I am a very famous thief that never not find the jewels. But I am so frustrated. I don't know where. I know you have them. I know why you're going to Mumbai. But I cannot find it." So the person said, "I know who you are. I knew that very well. So you know what I did? I put the bag underneath your pillow." The guy said, "Oh my God, I cannot believe it. It was right underneath my pillow and I was searching all over." The same situation is there for the search of the real person. I am searching for the real person outside of me, and I'm searching for God outside of me, when in fact it's never going to be successful. Never going to be successful. And so here Swami Maheshananji said, and I think I mentioned this last time, so make sure that I have kept up my time. 8:37. Yeah, we have enough time. So Swami Maheshananji said that really speaking, the fact of the matter is that every human being, non-human beings not possible, but in the human being, whatever you eventually desire, you will get. So your body-mind is a kalpavriksha. And it's very possible that you will get it in this life itself. Very possible. Possible means that it's feasible. Doesn't mean that you will definitely get it this life. It all depends on how you structure your search. It might take a few lives, but you will get there. That much is for sure. How do you say that? How can you say that? Everybody is... we have a couple of things to talk about here. You know, they say that in the language of Vedanta, the person who... in fact, this is used for Ishvara, for the Purusha, that one of the qualities, one of the personalities of the Ishvara is his Satya Sankalpaha. Satya Sankalpa means that whatever his Sankalpa is, whatever his plan is, whatever his decision is definitely going to come true. No question about that. Because he's the one who's the whole creator, and he does not get ensnared in it. And so whatever he creates is different, he knows this is just a play. So there's no question that he would be ensnared in it in any way. But the interesting thing is that even those of us who are progressing in life towards the understanding of ourselves and Ishvara, we will start to get relative Satya Sankalpa. So when I was reading this section, I can't remember which book it was in. This was about 5-6 years ago, Swami Maheshananji's commentary. I was skeptical. I said, how is that possible? How is that possible? Until two things happened, and my views changed. One is his explanation of why this is the case. And the other one is my own experience of my life. Well, let me explain both of them. So what Swami Maheshananji said was that what happens in the case of a person who is trying to be wise, he is not the ultimate Jivan Mukta yet, but he is struggling and he is committed. His upasana is towards becoming a Jivan Mukta. This word upasana is a very interesting word, by the way, so I'm interrupting my interruption. I hope I can go back to the second level of, I may not go back, so forgive me, because this popped up in my head as to the definition of upasana. This is what I really admire about these acharyas, because their ability to explain things in a manner where we can grasp it is beautiful. So Maheshananji explained the word upasana. And upasana means, on the books it says, the one who, so there are three segments of the Vedas, as you know. One is Karma Kanda, where Kriya, all the rituals in a very dedicated manner is Karma Kanda. Then Upasana Kanda means a section which teaches you how to do prayers. And then there is Jnana. Jnana Kanda. These are the three segments of the Vedas. So I had been studying all this and so on and so forth, but it wasn't until Swami Mahesanji explained Upasana, and he has now done it repeatedly. Whenever I see the reference, his vision is very clear, he's very consistent with it, and so is my increased understanding of the word Upasana. Here's what it is. He says, look, and so this must be because he's teaching to a lot of lay people who come to his classes, because his examples are all with respect to that and therefore very useful. He said, imagine a shop owner, a business owner. Imagine that. So now what happens is that the shop is open from 8 to 5, which is an unusual, because in India shops don't open until 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. But let's say 8 to 5. So there are two types of people there. One is his son, who is grooming to take over his business. Is one person. The other one is himself. So he says, now look at the life of both of these people. This kid who may be 17, 18, who may be either just going to college or he's working part-time or something. He's not very old. And so his father says, listen son, this shop will eventually come to you and I will leave it for you, so you better learn the business from me. So the son is really bored. What he wants to do is to just listen to music, play tennis. Swamiji mentions that. He says he wants to play tennis. So at 4 o'clock he looks at his watch and says, Dad, I'm pretty tired because I have been working the whole day. And I'd like to go and play tennis. Is it okay if I leave? So the father says, okay, leave. This is the situation. This son, he does all the perfunctory things that are necessary, but in the process feels very tired. Why? Because his drishti is not towards making money. His drishti is to have fun, to have friends, and in these days to be on social media and go to WhatsApp and exchange things, and work is an interruption. But his father gets mad at him if he doesn't work, so he has to work. This is the situation. Swamiji says, look at this guy now. He does not wait for 8 o'clock. He goes there at 7 o'clock in the morning. And his wife has to call him back because he's working there until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And when he comes home, he is whistling. He's humming a song. He's got a smile on his lips. So his wife says, why are you so happy? He says, my God, do you know I made 25,000 rupees today? And I can't wait to go back tomorrow morning. So Swamiji says, look at the attitude of these two people. You know what the difference is? He is the upasaka for money. This is the meaning of upasana. All the karmas, etc. is secondary. But he has discovered a certain joy in the quest of money. And so therefore, this is what is called upasana. And so here also Swamiji says, as a sadhaka, as a person, you can do all the pujas and you can do study and this, that or the other. But until you develop a love for the freedom of the inner self, which is nothing but the Ishvara himself, Paramatma and Jivatma is one and the same, until you taste the fact that I don't need to do anything. I am fine the way I am. Right now that's not the case. But this is what Vedanta says. Please look at yourself. This is called upasana. Anyway, so that was the upasana. Now let's go back to what I was saying before that. So I didn't forget what he's saying is that, listen, human beings can do anything that they want. Anything. It might take some while, but your drishti, your vision of what you want to do will lead you anywhere. And in doing so, this is the mistakes we make. And here, I wish we had more time to discuss on this. This is some very beautiful discussions in this book, Purusha Suktam, which I have shown you before. And so, he's gone from page number 21 to 366, which I actually scanned all the way today up to here. This is up to Pravachan number 24, which is the next segment, which I will go through. All these pages on the implications of Virada Jayata and the implication of the so-called Srishti, and how we should also see our own drishti in the same manner. Okay? And that means we can be totally independent of the sukha dukkha, all the pleasures and sorrows of life. Why? Because as Ishvara also, he is not touched by his creation. Why? Because Ishvara, the Purusha, is very clear about the distinction between the person and the personality. And the moment you become clear about yourself as the person and your body-mind as the personality, not the person, you'll be free. You'll be free. And so, and the way to do this is to begin to not be as preoccupied by useless things in the world. And the example of the design of the ornament is a beautiful one. You can be upset about the design. Oh my God, that was such a beautiful design. I broke it. And I'll never be able to repair it. If this is your drishti, then you are making yourself very vulnerable. But the drishti of the owner of this, the father and the mother, doesn't matter, daughter, it's okay. The gold is still there. Drishti is completely different. So similarly here also, I am preoccupied by the design of my personality, how the world bothers me, and so on. And why? Because I don't have an alternative. I think this is the reality. It is very much like a person who is playing a role in a play, and you're very, very upset by it, by the roles and so on, and you take it to be very real. You remember that story I told? That's, some of the Swamis. I think it was Swami Mahesharanji who gave the story. So I'll tell you two stories after this, and then we will wrap up, and that's it. It may not have been very structured today, but at least some of the basic aspects of this I think I was able to communicate. So the story is about I think those of you that have been attending other classes have already heard that, so it will be repetition for you, is about a role that was created about a person who was supposed to give a high-speed chase to a thief in a car. So the producer interviewed a lot of people, and he chose somebody who says, I drive very fast, and I'm a very good driver. And so he says, good. So he had some trials, and he was given that role. And the role is, the script is that he acts as a policeman, and they are chasing a thief who's driving at a very fast speed in a very crowded freeway, and he goes in and out just like that other guy is also going. He says, this is a real big movie that you have to really do. Can you do it? He says, sure, no problems. Then the movie starts. And by the way, one other important thing. He says the end of this sequence is that you lose him. You lose him. You are not able to catch him. But you have to give it a sincere try. That's how the whole thing is. So he says, yeah, we'll do that. But then the shooting starts, and he starts driving. And it really is dangerous because there are other cars and trucks on the freeway. They're going in and out, changing lanes and so on. Then he thinks to himself, he says, you know what? This sequence, as the director told me, the producer told me, it does not really end in my catching him. So why am I busting my behind, so to speak, to try to catch him and endangering my own life? That doesn't make any sense. So why don't I lose him very early on? And so there is a filming crew who was really following him, and this is supposed to be a 50-mile chase from one town to the other. And before he leaves this town, he loses him after about 7-8 miles. So when he got back, people said, what happened? What'd you do? He says, you told me that I wasn't going to catch it. So what difference does it make if I lose him early and so on? They all said, my God, not only are you fired, you are never going to get another job. I'll make sure of it. This is the stupidest thing. You accepted this job and you are not fulfilling it. So the moral of this story is that he was mixing up his duty towards this play, the script of the play. He was messing that up with the reality of who he is. He was mixing those two up. Instead, what he should do is follow the script as it is, while he should be happy that I'm doing a good job and I'll be well paid. And I've done, even though I don't normally drive this fast, but I think I'm capable of doing it, and I did a good job of chasing this guy. So really speaking, our mixing up the person and the personality is where we take the make-believe to be real and the real to be unapproachable. Beautiful story. And I think this is what we need to do as we begin to distinguish between this changing script, and we'll talk more about this when the script about the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra is all discussed later on. These are all scripts that Bhagwan has made, and we have to fulfill the very duty of that if we want to really be a good actor and get a job and be successful, we have to do that. Anyway, that is one story. Then the last story. This is not a story, this is an illustration. And with that, I will wrap up the class. If you remember, what I said earlier was that if we keep on searching for my inner reality in transacting with the world and searching for God as being separate from me, I should understand I am doing a never-ending search. Never-ending. In fact, the more I search, the less I will be successful. Like this guy who was in the train, the more he looks around without his own pillow, he never suspected it. So in this, there is a very interesting illustration. Beautiful illustration. So Maheshananji says, suppose you are looking at yourself in the mirror and you see a reflection. And as you are looking at yourself and you are admiring your, let's say you're doing makeup, mascara and so on and so forth, or something, lipstick, and you're looking at yourself and you feel, yeah, I think that's pretty good. That's pretty good, yeah, I need a little bit more work and so on, but it's okay, good. And then you look at your face that looks beautiful and you want to touch it. You want to touch it. You want to touch the beautiful face. Can you ever touch the reflection? No. If you want to touch the reflection, you have to touch yourself. When you touch yourself, you automatically touch the reflection, isn't it? If you stick your finger to the reflection, now you are mixing up the reality from the reflection. You'll never be able to touch it. All you will touch is the mirror. But you can accomplish the same thing by touching yourself. What this means is, the real search you have to do is yourself. The real search for either the person that you are or Ishvara is to see that it is none other than yourself. Your drishti should be towards the person. You have to be the person. Right now you don't know how to touch yourself. You don't know how to make yourself real. All you are looking at is a distorted reflection of yourself. So, this section of, this is not just a simple creation, it's a very funny creation, and we must have the wisdom to understand how this non-creation appears like a creation, and to understand that the identity between Jivatma and Paramatma is the only way the creation, the so-called creation of Ishvara will be fruitful for me. Otherwise it will be just some bookish knowledge that doesn't mean anything. So with that, I will conclude this verse, and also I would say that, very interestingly enough, Swami Maheshananji does not follow the sequence that you and I are familiar with of the Purusha Suktam, which is from the Taittiriya Aranyakam, Tritiya Prashna, from Krishna Yajurveda. This is what it is saying. So, for some reason, his sequence is slightly different. And I have not really done the research, and I don't need to. I'm not that interested in the pedantic aspect of it. Whether he's following a sequence of Shukla Yajurveda, because he could be using Shukla Yajurveda. The North Indians are actually more familiar with Shukla Yajurveda. So the Purusha Suktam is used in more than one Veda, and the exact sequence is slightly different. But in any case, the next verse we will take up is not the one you and I are familiar with, which is Yat Purushena Havisha Deva Yagyamatannvata, etc. Instead, we are going to see Tasmat Yagyat Sarvahutaha Sambhritam Prishadajyam Pashugastagaschakre Vayavyana Aranyan Gramyaschaye. So next class we will follow that. Why he is taking that verse next, we will follow. We will explain that. And so this is to understand the importance of yajna in this creation and the importance of yajna in our lives. What is the nature of the yajna? How to do it? How to gain from it? This is part of the creation, and so we will take up that from next week on. Okay, so with that I close the class with a prayer and see if you have any questions about today's class. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Okay. With a prayer and see if yes, Shanti Kumar, you're right. I think I will readjust the picture so that Dakshinamurti is less hidden. I'll make that adjustment. We just did that today. Thank you. Thank you for all your comments and all your presence. don't see any questions per se. Again, I would say that if you could kindly write to me if you needed to have some more in-depth question, then I'll be happy to send you an email. And once again, I would say that very much like to get a brief email from you, just telling me about how you're doing. That will be very pleasing. Some of you have already done so, and if you could just give me a quick summary of how things are in your life, that would be terrific. Okay. All right, with that I take your leave and we will see you next week. Okay? Om.